Afternoon, guys. Welcome to round 20 NRL preview, Footy Rants. I'm Benny Matthews. I don't want to waste any time. We're going to dive straight into the team list and my little analysis leading into tonight's first game between the Broncos and the Bulldogs. So a few little changes to these Brisbane lineup. We see Cody Nikorima been named at fullback tonight. So Jermaine Asako's been omitted from that side after making his debut against Newcastle last week. Otherwise, team's pretty well unchanged. You've got the inclusions of Origin forwards, Maguire and Gillett, which will be a big boost for them. They were a little bit flat, as we spoke about earlier in the week. I really like the forward pack that they toss up there. We see Corbin Sims, McCulloch, Blair, Glenn, Gillett and Maguire. That's a fair outfit, and I think Nikorima would do a solid job out the back. He's played a little bit there before, and whilst he is out there, I guess it's another smaller body that's in the 17 with Benji Marshall still named on the bench. So again, I'm still really not sure what Wayne Bennett's trying to get out of this 17 at the moment. But I guess when you're coming up against a Bulldogs outfit that's struggling for points, I guess they're looking to move them around a little bit more and try and go for the tactic of more playmakers on the field, the better. So we're seeing that Bulldogs lineup. So everyone's back from Origin now that we're out the other side of that. They've stuck with Marcelo Montoya on the wing as opposed to Kerrod Holland. Halves are still Reynolds and Mbai. Leisha finds himself back in the starting spot at 9. I'm not too sure. I would have liked to have seen. I thought Mbai played pretty good at 9 the other week. A couple of line breaks. I would have liked to see Matt Frawley and Reynolds have a crack again together. But yeah, Reynolds really needs to stand up if they're going to be any sort of chop it, knocking off the Broncos, especially at Suncorp. See there, they've been struggling with the tackle all season. Broncos have scored 21 more tries, 21 more line breaks, and conceded 10 less errors across the course of the season. So, pretty well emulates where they are positionally on the ladder. The Dogs, they will go in with a little bit of confidence knowing that they have beaten the Broncos already this year. They won 10-7 earlier in the season, came from behind. From memory, it was pretty atrocious conditions down there. It was pretty wet, so probably played a little bit more into the Bulldogs' hands, that defensive style of play. No word of any rain tonight. It's quite a mild day here in Brisbane today. But all the same, I still always lean to the Dogs making it a dog fight. We still can't forget that this is a Des Hasler coach side, and they're going to make things as difficult as possible. So I've seen a lot of money come in at the 13 plus margin rate for Brisbane, but I'd probably be more inclined to lead towards that 1 to 12. So there is a little bit of value there. For the Bronx at 1 to 12, paying $3, keeping in mind that Brisbane have won 4 of the last 5 at Suncorp between these two teams. So that's where I'm leaning towards in this encounter. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the probably more so the battle of the halves, see who can sort of leverage a little bit of supremacy over one another and get the win. But yeah, I think whoever controls the game better through the halves and is allowed to execute off the back of what their forwards do and utilise their backs, that's who'll come out on top. So yeah, my pick is the halves. I think Anthony Milford can really get back to some sort of form. Did score a try last week against Newcastle, but I think he'll go even better. So I'm going to throw a bit of a bold prediction out there. I'll pencil Milford in for a double. Second game, so we got the Roosters up against the Knights. Now this, if we sort of scroll up a little bit here, it's tipped to be a bit of a blowout. So Newcastle set at $5.80 head to head, and Roosters only $1.15. So almost no value whatsoever. And I guess that comes off the back of you see everyone that's returning here for the Roosters. But where I start to draw a bit of a line in the sand is you look who's out: Jake Friend, Michael Gordon. So all of a sudden, half your spine has changed. You've got Connor Watson, who's played limited minutes all season. Not that I'm doubting his fitness, but the roles and responsibilities and workload of a fullback in NRL in 2017 are much higher than 10 minutes at dummy half off the bench. So I think that could come into play late in the game, especially if they do, kick to him a lot and let him run out. And also Mitch Cornish came on, had a screamer during the Origin period at halfback. Yet to see what he's like at NRL level at hooker. To support that role, they've actually got a kid on debut in Victor Radley. Did a little bit of a brief over of him, played in the NYC Grand Final for them, was imperative in their comeback. Plays a little bit of lock now that he's starting to become a bit more of a regular at that NYC level. So, he's got a reasonable frame on him. So it'll be interesting to see, because if we scroll even further down there in the reserves, we see Grant Garvey. He was more of the pick to sort of be the next up-and-comer in that role. So for Victor Radley to make that jump, they've obviously seen something in him, and he's really developed as a Roosters junior. So it's good to see. But aside from those changes in the spine, you look at the finishing capacity of Tupou, Mitchell, Manu and Ferguson, as well as the halves still of Kiri Pearce. Forwards, it's star-studded. JWH, Napa, Madison starting to find his feet on that edge now. The experience of Orbison and Liu. So mainly up front, if JWH and Napa can really set the foundation right, it's going to be a matter of whether they can get the service from Cornish that's adequate for Kiri and Pearce to play their natural game that they're used to playing off the back of Jake Friend. And also the involvement of Connor Watson at one, if he can chime in and help relieve some of that pressure to make sure that blokes like Mitchell and Manu get plenty of ball, they will go a long way to winning this match. But interestingly enough, first time he pulls on a Newcastle jersey, Sean Kennedy will come straight up against his former club. And I wouldn't mind betting that he was the one who told Coach Nathan Brown that he was more than willing to stand up and that be his first challenge for the club to go out and put a strong performance against his former team. Obviously, it wasn't anything overly bitter that saw him backdoored from the Roosters as far as performance or anything like that. It was purely off field, and rugby league's a business now, and if you fuck up, sometimes you've got to suffer the consequences, and SKD is definitely feeling that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this newfound combination that Coach Nathan Brown suddenly got at his disposal between Gagai and Sean Kennydow. That could be anything. You just don't know. So it's an unknown at the moment, which could very much help shift the momentum of this game, especially when we're considering a $5.80 head-to-head. Another little thing that I noted, Newcastle Knights, in their last 9 starts, 6 of those games have ended, or I should say 5 of those games have ended in a loss of 1 to 12, not 13 plus, and one of those games was actually a victory over Canberra. So, 6 of those games, the market wasn't right. Everyone's tipped them just to get fucking belted. But in that head-to-head market, you've got to give them a crack. So, even if you can lean towards the Roosters 1 to 12, there may be a bit of value there as well. I think the Roosters should still get the job done, but you just don't know. A little bit of an interesting decision. I'm not sure why they're keeping Fitzgibbon on the bench again. I thought he'd been quite good. Joe Water's been moved to that back row, played a little bit of centres, but now that Gagai's back from all his Origin duties, staying strong with Nathan Ross out the back, and Hodkinson keeps his spot at 7 for now, partnering Brock Lamb. So, yeah, and also Danny Levi gets back into the starting side after coming off the bench in place of Jamie Buhrer. So they've simply just switched roles back. So sort of played out where I think Newcastle can find a few chinks in the Roosters' armour, and that's going to be making sure that you're limiting the capacity to which Connor Watson can impact the game, and then just try and see what fucking you can toss up between Gagai and Kennedy. Get them some footy. Let them have a genuine crack at Tupou and Mitchell. So, we know at times that Kiri can make some defensive errors, and so does Anthony Mitchell. And if you're going to come up against another centre that you want to be on your best against, it's going to be Dan Gagai, and especially the confidence that he's going to be feeling after his successful Origin campaign. So, yeah, I think the Roosters will still get it done, but the Knights have showed time and time again that whilst they have been disappointing, yes, they lost to the Tigers again that they should have won. They were more than competitive with the Broncos last week. Yes, they were missing a couple of players post-Origin, but you've just got to take each game on its merit. So Yeah, if you're looking for a roughie, a genuine roughie with genuine value, the Newcastle Knights are it for this week at $5.80 head to head. But I'll take the Roosters. Next game, Sharks and Rabbitohs. So sort of keeping in mind from our first game between the Broncos and Bulldogs, the three games that I've made comparisons with: Broncos, Bulldogs, Sharks, Rabbitohs, and the Cowboys and Warriors. So the Broncos, Sharks, and Cowboys all sort of locked up in that top four, clinging on those 26 points. This game is imperative in their drive forward to a top four finish. The other three teams, the Bulldogs, Rabbitohs, and Warriors, whilst they're sort of 50-50, you pretty well scrap their season already. If they are going to make any sort of run now, this is their opportunity to do so and prove it against some quality opposition. So it's pivotal for all six of these clubs this weekend to really set the standard for how they want to finish the season. So I'm really looking forward to those three matches and how they're panning out. So yeah, we see James Maloney's back in the lineup for Cronulla. This game's being played at Shark Park, where they've got a 4 from 5 winning percentage against the Rabbitohs in recent times. And I think simply just having Maloney back at 6 will fix some of that defensive structure. I know he defended pretty poorly in the last start with the New South Wales team, but I think just having Jack Bird back at centre now and him being more familiar in that role will just help settle things down. And, just fixing that alone, I think, alleviates 3 or 4 tries from last week, and they're right in that game against the Titans. So whilst it did seem like a big blowout, they were down 30-0 entering the last 10 minutes of that game against the Gold Coast last week. But aside from that, it was that much of a drastic effect on the shape of the game. So I wouldn't expect to see a result like that from Cronulla again. That's not to say that I don't expect the Rabbitohs to put up a fight. That they were utterly disappointing against the Cowboys last week, and I don't know what else you need in the tank to help motivate a side. But if it's not getting a win against Cronulla in Cronulla, such a proud club that's finally cracked that success that they've achieved last year, I don't know what else will. Luke Lewis back into the starting side, really like that. But yeah, for me, it's probably more the bench that impresses me a bit more. Unluckily, Kurt Capewell left out of that side. I thought he's been playing pretty solid for Cronulla when Flanagan's asked him to step up, and was picked up a late try last week, even though they ended up getting belted. But yeah, this bench of Bakuya, Hyington, Tagatisi, Seguiaro, obviously carrying Seguiaro just because of the new workload that's being asked on Manu Brown. He'll no doubt bring a shit ton of energy, as he did last week in his first game back. But yeah, just picking 4 probably bigger bodies in Bakuya, Hyington, and Tagatisi, and there's no secret that you're just trying to match size with size when you're coming up against the Bunnies. Most teams that have had success this year has simply come through just forcing errors out of the Burgess brothers, essentially. Even Sam's, hasn't had a clean slate of a season this year as far as ball control goes. Where South Sydney need to turn things around is the 1, 6, and the 7. They've made sure that Damien Cook's back in the lineup. Obviously, having Farah out there for 80 minutes running solo last week didn't do them any good. Jake Granville absolutely embarrassed the ruck of South Sydney last week. But Reynolds and Walker chimed together for their first try after defending for the first 10 minutes. So it's not to say that they don't have the ability to, or they haven't showed that they can. They certainly have. It just needs to happen over a more consistent period of time other than fucking 10 minutes. That'll be bolstered on their edge defence. Aaron Gray's back, so young Braden Burns drops out of that starting lineup. Robert Jennings will start to hit his groove again after he came back last week. There's so much strike power. There's so many teams that we say week in, week out that should be doing so much better than they are. If they can pretty much focus on the game plan, not relying on fucking Angus Crichton and Sam Burgess to do all the work in and around the ruck, they'll be half a chance, and they'll definitely be able to go with the Sharks. For me, it's going to be based off the platform that's laid at the start of each 40 minutes. So, the first probably 10 to 15 minutes of each half will determine how South Sydney fare in this match. We've seen time and time again that the Sharks are willing to be patient, even giving up leads at the halftime break and coming back and winning games. I don't have the stats on how many games they've come from behind, but I believe it's getting up around the 7 or 8 mark. It may even be higher than that. So yeah, if you're going to give another 50-50, for whatever reason, even though they're having a disappointing year, I look at the Rabbitohs each and every week and say that they've got the potential to beat any team in this competition. It's just whether or not they want to rock up and play some footy. So I'm not sure what's happening on an administrative level at that club and how the respect from coach to players going, but they're definitely not performing as they should be for the players that they do have. But yeah, just the return of Maloney alone, fixing that defensive structure on that left edge will be enough, I think, to get them over the line. But I think it'll still be a relatively close match. So maybe look towards that 1-12 market. Penrith and Titans. So I already said that I was excited for those 3 games. This also poses for another interesting encounter, because so Titans obviously in that same sort of list as the lower place teams in the Dogs, Rabbits and Warriors that I mentioned before, and Penrith are isolated at the moment just outside the 8. So a big bolster forward. This either shortens the gap that all those teams have with Penrith, or Penrith then jump out and could potentially, if the Dragons lose to Manly this week, they could find themselves in the 8 by the end of this round. Big show of faith from Coach Anthony Griffin. Peter Wallace is back from injury, and he's walked straight back into that number 9 jersey with Mitch Rain dropping out of the starting side. But interestingly, Katoa holds his. So, they're obviously happy with what Katoa's done in his first few outings. I think just his ball play in and around the ruck once he jumps out too was quite good. It was creative for their first try last week. So yeah, Moylan and Wallace obviously big ticks in the box in their returns as far as impact on the game. Nathan Cleary is no doubt going to be feeling a whole heap of confidence after his great display, 3 tries, 2 tries this last week. Campbell Gillard had a big game off the bench, so he's back in the starting side. Only massive change, losing out in Trent Merrin. So Moses Leota gets his chance playing lock, and Tim Brown comes back into the side with Fisher Harris still looking to pretty much pull Corey Harunairo or Isaiah Yeo out of their starting positions. But at the moment, the way they've been playing, super consistent. So can't see that happening anytime soon. Gold Coast, we see their lineups there, and in 18th man, Kane Elgey, omitted from the spine, so they are sticking, and I think that mainly comes off the back of the result last week against the Sharks, just rewarding those players who went out there and did their job in front of their home crowd. So yeah, the spine will remain Hayne Roberts, Taylor and Nathan Peets. Where I think these guys can shine in the Titans is just the leadership of ball carrying and defence that Wallace and James bring consistently week in, week out. And I'm keen to see Taylor and Cleary pitted against each other, because there's definite potential for that to be a future Origin lineup in Queensland versus New South Wales for sure. They both definitely got the potential to go out there and play that sort of role for their individual states. But that's probably a few years off yet. But definitely keep an eye on those guys, because they're in some red hot form after last week. They're probably the 2 standout halves. I think a lot of these younger Titans forwards now, you got Greenwood, King, Boyle, and Pulu. They're starting to find their rhythm now and what their roles and responsibilities are as a first grade rugby league player. So they're only getting better. So if they get a win here, I believe they're 4 on the trot. So there's a lot to play for, especially in their stakes for making this claim in the top 8. So as far as left and right goes, this is pivotal for these 2 teams as well. But in comparison to the lineups of the other 3 matchups I was talking about, this is between them playing in September and not. For the other 3 higher placed teams in the Broncos, Sharks and the Cowboys, that's whether or not they're going to finish in the top half or the bottom half of the top 8. Those 3 teams will definitely play finals football. I've got no doubt about that, but that's pressing towards that. This is basically some lower table semi-final football come early. So if these two teams played to their potential more consistently, these two clubs could easily be top four. You know, there's youth sprinkled with experience. I think they probably match up against each other closer than any other side in the comp as far as similarities go with youth and experience. So, yeah, I really don't know which way to lean with this one. Um, Penrith are 3 from 3 at Pepper Stadium against the Titans. Um, I don't think the Titans deserve to be the massive outsiders that they are. They're $2.60, so as far as the betting markets go, that's massive value for them. I think they were paying something similar against Cronulla last week and came through. Um, but yeah, it's going to come down to the battle of the edges. You know, Proctor and Greenwood probably a bit of a mismatch as far as runs on the board in timelines on their career. But you know, you've got Harawira and Yo, who's super consistent for guys that are so young. Um, for both these guys, I think it's just going to be a matter of who sticks that last pass. This is dead set a coin toss for me. I'm really, really surprised. It's probably blown out to that favouritism just because they're at home, and now that they do have Moylan and Peter Wallace back. And I guess for that, the leadership that he's going to bring to the ruck and some of the stability that he can bring to some of the younger forwards, I'm going to lean towards Penrith in this one, but still only tight, like we were mentioning in the reviews earlier in the week. They've really gotten in a habit now of being able to grind out these wins that were sort of sitting on the table. They're not blowing any teams off the park like they did when they got on their winning run before they were beaten by the Cowboys a few weeks back. But I think they'll do enough in front of their home crowd to get the biscuits. Raiders Storm, another one. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said, I think it's a pretty straightforward round. I don't think there's too many 50-50s apart from the Dragons Manly, but you look at these teams on paper, and I know at some point you've got to be like, well, yeah, but we're talking about form here, not paper. But at some point or another, and I'm hoping that last week was that turning point, that the fact that Ricky Stewart is consistently able to put this same 17 out on the field week in, week out, has to start paying dividends. It just has to start paying dividends. Now, they'll miss... Excuse me. Beg your pardon. They'll miss Josh Papali, no doubt. He's a rep player. But Joe Tarpany's a little bulldog, and I think he's going to absolutely revel in coming into this starting lineup and playing alongside his mates. And that gives Michael Oldfield is coming into the starting side. Interesting choice. I'm not sure where they're going to play him. He's a centre winger. Been around the traps a little bit. Hasn't played much first grade in the last few seasons. It'll be interesting to see whether he does hold his place there, or if they pick up one of those forwards. It'd be interesting to see if Liam Knight got a start. He was a young psycho that came through the Manly 20 system, and I believe he was at the Roosters last year. So he's been around a little bit, suffered a few disciplinary issues. I'm pretty sure he got done DD or something like that, which may have stunted his start to an NRL career. But I remember him dominating a few kids a couple of years ago when he was playing in the front row for Manly. So we've seen Royce Hunt debut as well. Scott Sorensen, he's a 9. I wouldn't expect him to get a start. But any of these sort of younger guys potentially might sneak in over Oldfield, just because I'm not sure where they would play him if he was to come off the bench. Thought it was a big step forward for Canberra last week in Blake Austin and Aiden Caesar standing up to the plate. Obviously, the leadership of Josh Hodgson came there and spoke fairly in depth about Jack Whiten's ability to be that link and that last pass, much like Darius Boyd does for the Broncos. But I guess, when you're looking at the betting markets like that, head-to-head, $2.73 outsiders, and it's because you're coming up against this outstanding outfit. What more I don't need to say who they are. We all know who they are. The forward pack doesn't change. It just gets better with age by the look of it. The area where I'm attacking, though, is right here. Tonamapea and Addo-Carr. You've got to go at them. You've got to contest the football and really challenge Tonamapea's ability to look after his winger under the high ball. And the fact that that's against Leilua and Rapana, if those blokes can fire, I really think there's some questions around Tonamapea's defensive ability and his decisions under pressure. And if that is the way that they do go and he does end up playing, I think that the Raiders can have some really, really good success No doubt they would have doubled down on that in video and all their training scenarios and putting Tonomapay under pressure. So the ball's back in his court now to see whether or not he responds and comes up with the defensive reads that they'll need him to make, because otherwise I think Billy Slater's in for a lot of cleanup. They're playing in Canberra. You know how loyal the fans are down there. They're 2 from 2 down there in Canberra the last couple of starts. But yeah, that's my massive sort of play for Canberra. So another potential upset there. So Canberra fans, I wouldn't despair. I think you're going to go down there and give it a fair shake. I'd be very surprised if the Storm go down there and wipe the floor. So it'll be interesting to see come Monday whether or not I've got to chew on my own words or not. Next game, we got North Queensland up against the Warriors. No doubt they're going to come in as heavy favourites now with the loss of Shaun Johnson for New Zealand Warriors, and rightly so. Interestingly enough, Anthony Winterstein's been named in this starting side. Didn't finish the game last week. I believe it was a calf strain. So, yeah, obviously it wasn't as bad as first thought. It was potentially just taking a compensatory stance on it. He's had trouble with a hamstring. I'm not sure if it was on the same leg or not, but regardless, when you start to have those linkages between calf strains, hammy strains, it means there's a bit of a fault in the chain. So probably erring on the side of caution, and it'd be good to see him run out there because he probably doesn't get the accolades that he deserves just because he's not a crazy finisher or anything like that. But man, if there's room in the game for a defensive winger, Antonio Winterstein's is one for me. Fuck, he can put a hit on. But yeah, waiting in the wings there, we see he's come into the lineup that Javid Bowen and Kalen Ponga could get another NRL cap beside their name. Looking to build on this halves partnership of Martin and Morgan. They're 2 from 2, so if they get the cookies again against the Warriors at home, that'll be 4 in a row without Jonathan Thurston, and I believe that will be a record if it's not already. Said it last week. Coote and Granville's involvement is absolutely vital. Takes the pressure off the halves, and just the way that he dictates that ruck speed, Granville, it can't be compared to when you've got someone like Ben Hampton. No disrespect to the bloke, but the more minutes that they can eke out of Granville, the better. If Ben Hampton can find himself, suffice to say, 10 to 15 minutes week in, week out, I think that's imperative to the success of this team. The longer that Granville's out there, the better, because it just helps blokes like Cohen Hess and Tamalolo get on the front foot and really dig deep into the line. So yeah, it's good to see that same 17 rewarded. The only change will be made if Winterstein isn't fit for that. In place of Shaun Johnson, we have Mason Lino. So that hasn't happened since 2015. So almost 2 years since he last played in the NRL, the 23-year-old. So yeah, it'll be interesting. No doubt they're going to run a lot of traffic his way. The Cowboys' edge back rowers we know are super, super strong. And when you've got the likes of Tamalolo and Hess that are going to show up on those edges as well, they're going to try and get him in a one-on-one situation, especially inside their own 20. I think even more so outside of Lino, Kieran Foran's going to come under a lot of pressure, not only from his fellow teammates, his coaches, but also the fans. They're going to really be, I think, relishing this fact that now that Johnson's gone, I think they'll be able to breathe a little bit. It's like, okay, well, we can just stand up and do what we need to do. We don't need to worry about these headlines of, oh, Johnson didn't do this, Johnson didn't do that. It's time for us to take some responsibility for our club, our colours, and put on a good performance. These two clubs, they have arguably the two toughest rosters in the comp with the amount of travel that they have to do, connecting flights, all that sort of drama. So yeah, let's put them head to head and see who's willing to go the extra mile. It's not to say that they can't get the cookies. They've still got plenty of strike power. Their wingers in Fusatura and Emamalo are great finishers. Carter, we've seen, came back with a vengeance. Tuivasa-Sheck on his day partnering with Isaac Luke can be damaging. The experience of Lilliam and Madalino, it goes on. But yeah, I think as far as defending those edges, missing Hoffman is really coming into play defensively this time of year. And just the offloads that he comes up with too. So yeah, I can't see the Warriors getting the win, unfortunately. And and if they aren't able to play the full 80, I think the Cowboys could really do some damage late in the game, especially the way that Taumalolo and Hess sort of did what they wanted against a big Bunnies forward pack last week. Alrighty, into Sunday's games, we have the Dragons up against Manly, and I'm actually sniffing an upset here. That you can see up top here, it's pretty close to even money, so there's respect being played either ways. But the Dragons are $2.08 outsiders in comparison to Manly $1.78. You can see big inclusions for the Dragons are Ewan Aitken and Tyson Frizzell, and I think what that does is just bolster up that right edge attack. Now that we've got Ewan Aitken back there, Dugan's ability to show up on that sweep play and even just get Ewan Aitken one-on-one, particularly what I'm trying to draw towards here is the winger who's coming back for Manly, Brad Parker. Made his debut in round 19 last year, so he's inexperienced. I think he's only got 5 caps next to his name, and he'll be defending alongside Brian Kelly. So 2 young fellas up against a big body in Ewan Aitken, the experience of Josh Dugan, and then not to mention the finishing ability of Nano McDonald. Don't be surprised if they look to get those kicking mismatches going and see if McDonald can get over the top of the young kid and give him some headache. So that's the big mismatch that I like that favours the Dragons. We see that Packer's been named in an extended bench, so we may see him return, we may not, a bit of a 50-50, but regardless, everyone else stood up in that forward pack massively last week, and I don't think that'll be an issue at all, and now that you've got Frizzell back as well. Whilst I do feel sorry for Kurt Mann being relinquished back to the bench, I think if anything, again, it's another plus in the Dragons' boxes to have someone who's been so influential for this outfit to come on and wreak some havoc. And I think they'll pretty much just chuck him on and be like, you do what you do, mate. Just get us some results. And I think that they may even play a left and right style of sort of play with him and Dugan at some point, almost adding like an extra ball runner / ball player, depending on what variation of certain moves that they want to run. So yeah, I'm really excited to see if the Dragons can respond and embrace this underdog sort of mentality. The fact that they're underdogs at home, I think says a lot about what the market's feeling with respect to Manly. But you can't negate the fact that they only showed up for half a game, still had all the advantages in the world against the West Tigers, and only put them away by 12 points. So it's going to depend on who shows up. That Dragons forward pack, they still haven't taken a backward step. It's been more the execution of the halves and the outside backs that's let this team down, as opposed to the performance of the Dragons forwards. They've been super, super consistent, and the fact that they're now without Api Coruscant and Matt Wright, who finished so well for 2 tries for Manly last week, I think they're really the market's really underestimated the impact that Api Coruscant's had on this side. Cam Cullen, I don't think he's played a full 80 minutes in the NRL in his career so far, so he's going to be tested. So that gives Jackson Hastings a start. So already they've burnt up an extra big body that they could have carried on the bench, which is what you want coming up against the Dragons, because we know that the Dragons forwards can play big minutes. So they've got that luxury of keeping Kurt Mann there, and they're not going to lose out on too much. In saying that, Perrott, Lussick and Fanua Blake have been doing a phenomenal job where they have been starting or coming off the bench. So yeah, a big job for them. If they can stand up, I think that's where they'll actually come through and be a lot more competitive. If they lose that, build the pressure on that mismatch with young Parker returning to the NRL ranks, I think the Dragons could wreak some havoc for sure. So I'm actually going to lean on the Dragons there to get the cookies. Final game of the round. Good little grudge match. All right, we've got the Tigers up against Parramatta. So Mitchell Moses comes up against his former club for the first time since he left earlier in the season. Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. If we scroll up again there, $1.35 favourites Parramatta are. So everyone's sort of feeling that they're hitting a bit of a groove, and I tend to agree with them a little bit. I don't know if I go to the extent of saying I have the faith of $1.35 head to head, but I do really like the back 5 for Parramatta, if we scroll down, we should pretty familiar with who that is, with Gutherson, Semi Radradra, and Bevan French. Just their ability to finish, but also Gutherson's ability to just make something out of nothing, and his sheer competitive nature is something that's thwarted by the rest of his teammates. So Barve gets a start in the front row with Tim Manor, and I think if Nathan Brown just gets on his running ways as he has been, I think that'll be enough to sort of answer the call of Aaron Woods. I think Nathan Brown will really go after Aaron Woods in this match, and if he does so, it could go any way. Where I think they're going to start to struggle, it's just this lack of consistency. They've been constantly having to reshuffle this back five, the Tigers, and that does wreak a little bit of havoc on your ability to finish tries. Nguama's played pretty much everywhere in that back line now. Zelazniak's been in and out of the side. Their only sort of staple position has been Norfoluma on that right wing. Moses Sully's still not there. Tui Lawler here still hasn't really delivered as they would have liked in signing him mid-year, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him next season once Reynolds comes into the Forte. And they've also missing Suaso Su through suspension, so another big loss there. So Chris Lawrence comes back into the starting side. This forward pack, it doesn't really get me excited in Woods, Simanfanai, Lawrence, Edwards, Taylor. It's solid. They know what they're doing. They're experienced guys, but I think if Parramatta fire, they're just going to have more creativity than what the West Tigers do. So, again, they did surprise in their performance against Manly. So if they can build on that, they're a definite shot. It'll be interesting to see how Parramatta respond coming out the back of their bye from last week. But outside of that, I'm going to go with an Eels head-to-head. I don't know. It depends what side rocks up from each respective club. If the best Parramatta side rocks up, they flog them. But Parramatta the West Tigers could equally do the same if Parramatta fall asleep. But it looks like Moses and Norman are really starting to figure out who they are in relation to each other's games. And when Gutherson does what Gutherson does, good luck to any club. So that's everything in preview to this weekend's round 20 NRL. Good luck with all your tipping. And I shall see you at the start of next week, where we'll see which way the chips have sort of fallen for those teams vying for the top 4 finish, and those looking to scrape into the top 8. Righty, gang, have a great weekend, and I shall see you at the start of next week.